Well, now in Washington is John Sarno, who was the deputy director of the CIA's National Clandestine Service until 2007. And in Reykjavik, Birgitta Jónsdóttir, an Icelandic MP who campaigns for greater transparency. In 2011, she took the US government to court to protect her privacy, but lost. But let me begin with you, John Sarno. It's interesting because 6 years have elapsed since you retired. And I'm just wondering whether the scale of what the NSA was looking at, your fellow agency, whether the scale of it shocks you or whether it's business as usual as far as you ever remember.
Well, to a certain degree, it is business as usual. I mean, the capabilities have improved, as has technology over the ensuing years. But in essence, the primary focus of the National Security Agency and other intelligence organizations, not just the United States, but around the globe, is to collect as much information as possible. So the technology has moved apace, and with that, the National Security Agency and others have improved their capabilities as well. So no, it doesn't come as a shock.
Is the sense then that you have, what's all the fuss about?
Well, to a very large degree, yes. These programs have been divulged in the past. There have been publications about it. While it has not received the same notoriety that we've seen over the past few months after Snowden's allegations surfaced, it's still, these are programs that have proven effective in the past. And I think what we're talking about here is, in essence, excessiveness. The sheer volume that's being collected and the fact that it has now been divulged, that this program expands into areas where the general public believes that it should not go. Right. And those are valid concerns. So I think there's genuine concern, and it is legitimate, but I think you have to look primarily at intent, and the intent is not to cause harm.
Well, Birgitta Jónsdóttir, you were a victim, in fact, yourself, of your own private communications being penetrated. But I'm wondering, do you recognize that at least the kind of agencies that John Sarno represented had a right to be looking at what was going on in Iceland?
No, absolutely not. Not unless they would do that with full knowledge of those that are being surveilled. I don't see any reason for them to surveil Icelandic citizens. In that regard, we don't have a military in Iceland. We don't have a secret agency. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't understand why they would do it. But I think it is very important to note, like I took this case to court when the Department of Justice requested or demanded to have my private information handed over to them without my knowledge. I took this to court to try to raise awareness about how far and how invasive this has become. Because what people don't understand is that when this data is collected, it is not only about data. It is about any agent actually invading your home, your most private space. It just happens to be online or in a digital format. And
let me put that to John. Let me put that to John Sarno, because I mean, after all, Angela Merkel's most private communications were penetrated by the NSA. I mean, that surely is beyond the limit. Indeed, Mr. Kerry has said, Secretary of State Kerry has said that the agencies did perhaps overreach themselves in some areas, although he hasn't specified what they were.
Right. I would agree with Secretary Kerry's assessment. It is an issue, and it's one that has not just surfaced during these recent allegations, but in essence has been a debate ongoing for a number of years, which is, where do you strike the proper balance between the need for security and the need for privacy? And I would agree that there have been some excesses. But I think we also have to keep in mind, if you're looking at, and again, it becomes a debate between quality versus quantity in essence. If you're looking at the sheer numbers that have been collected, and they are incredibly large. Right.
Well, let me again go back to Birgitta, because the gravest difficulty is that somewhere there are security considerations. How do you draw a balance between strategic necessity and national defense and private individual information, given that we live in a world in which you can look at anything?
Well, I think this is exactly the discussion that we need to have on very many different levels, both locally and globally. And we have to actually redefine what is privacy. And we have to create an environment where people actually feel that they can have privacy. This is one of the fundamentals of our democracies. So if a journalist cannot protect his source, if a lawyer cannot protect his client's confidentiality, and the doctors cannot protect their patients' confidentiality, we are facing a situation where the foundations of our democracies have vanished. And so we need to have a discussion about this, and
Right.
I think it is actually very important that what Snowden actually did was to take this information and put it into
Birgitta, alas, we
yeah,
have
he
to.
managed to
We
put-
have.
yes.
I'm afraid we're out of time there, but thank you very, very much. You've opened the discussion. It's one we'll continue. Birgitta Jonsdottir and John Sano, thank you both very warmly indeed.